What is a discriminant? It allows us to find the nature of the roots of a quadratic. So that kind of sounds like jumble to you, but you should know what the word roots means. So, for example, if I am looking at a graph, the roots is where it crosses the x-axis. And hopefully you realize that this type of parabola has two answers, two roots, one here and one here. So when I go back to my notes, the discriminant allows us to find the nature of the roots of a quadratic. Okay. Things you should know. You now know what the words roots means. It means the answers or where it crosses the x-axis. So let's talk about what is the discriminant and how do I find it. So I'm going to look here. The discriminant of a quadratic, we know the quadratic formula is this over 2a. The discriminant is what's inside the square root. And we already have been talking about why it's important. We know that if inside this is positive, we know the calculator's going to give us an answer, or we can simplify it ourselves, or we can break it down. So if inside here is a positive number, right, which means back here a value greater than 0, then there is two real solutions. Okay? And you should know that. And we already discussed this. If under here is negative, which means that that value is less than 0, then it's two imaginary solutions, or not real, complex. Imaginary and complex are similar, but we're just going to say two imaginary solutions, meaning that it's going to have I in it. And we've done those problems already. And so the last one we need to cover is that if under the square root comes out to be 0, please remember there's still going to be more to the problem. There's still going to be the b here and the a here. So if it's 0, it's not that there's going to be 0, it's that there's going to be one real solution. Okay? And I'm going to explain what it means on a graph in a second. I look at this graph, I see that this graph is crossing the axis in two spots. So if I look at the graph here, which is y equals x squared minus 6x plus 8, that's what this is graph. So I would know that if I took b squared, which is 36, minus 4 times a times c, this answer, that's a 36, has to come out to be a positive value under this square root. And so the square root of 36 minus 4 times 1 times 8 is 2. So as long as this is a pot, because remember, it's the opposite of b, plus or minus that, all over 2a, but it's only the b squared minus 4ac. This is what we call the discriminant. And whatever the discriminant is, then that tells us that there's going to be two real solutions. So if I take, for example, the graph y equals x squared plus 2x plus 3, that's what I have over here. And now I find the discriminant of it. Hold on. Give me 1 second. Okay. Okay. If I find the discriminant, which is b squared, so it's going to be under here, it's going to be 4 minus 4a times c. Well, I know I'm going to get 4 minus 12. That answer is going to be negative 8. The discriminant is negative. If that is negative, it's telling me this graph should not cross the x-axis. And when I graph this here, that's where it's graphed. Okay, so that makes sense. So what are my solutions? It's if I know that it's negative 8, then I know it's 2 imaginary solutions. So as long as that number is negative, it should not cross the x-axis, and I would get 2 imaginary solutions. Let's look at the next one. If I have the graph, let me get this back up. Okay, if I have, let's back up so I can write on it. Y equals x squared plus 6x plus 9. If I take the square root, which is b squared, 36 minus 4 times a times c. Well, that's a 9. So hopefully you can see this is going to be 36 minus 36. So that's going to come out to be 0. If the discriminant is 0, then my graph should only touch the axis in one real solution. And so when I undo this and I graph that, that would be the graph of x squared. It's x squared plus 6x plus 9. So the discriminant came out to be 0, and that is why I have one real solution. And the only solution in this problem is at -3, 0. So hopefully that links the graph to the discriminant. I'm going to show you, we're going to pick out one problem. Let me see here. Okay, let's go back to this. Now I'm going to ask you to, without solving, I don't want what the answers are. I just want you to be able to look at a quadratic and know, is it going to have 2 solutions, 1 solution, or it's not going to cross the x-axis. So yes, the entire quadratic formula is this: b squared minus 4ac over 2a. All I need to look at is this. So I'm going to put my radical. I'm going to take 36, which is b squared. Remember, when I take that negative and squared, it becomes positive, times 1 times 8. I'm going to get the square root of 36 minus 32, and my answer is going to be 4. Just be careful. The answer is, if the computer asks, what is the discriminant? It's 4. That's what it is. What's the nature of the roots? It would have 2 real solutions. Okay. If I look at this one, I'm only going to do your b squared, which is going to be 36 minus 4 times a times 9. I'm going to get 36 minus 36, and my discriminant is 0, which means I have one real solution. Okay. Now, please remember, if I did the quadratic, I'd have a 6 here, plus or minus, and it would all be divided by 2. So my answer would be 6 divided by 2, and my answer is 3. So my real solution here is 3, 0 again. All right, try these two on your own, please, and let's see what you. So if you try these, you should see that this came out to be negative. So the discriminant is -11, which means I have 2 imaginary solutions. Okay, 2 not real, non-real. Maybe the computer will say non-real instead of imaginary, but it means it's not a real solution. It's not crossing the x-axis. It could be here, it can go down, whatever it does not ever cross the x-axis. Here, please be careful if the computer asks what is the discriminant. Um, discriminant would be 49, not 7, because that's the answer, but the discriminant is 49. It's positive, which means I have two real solutions. Okay, so from this, I'm hoping that you can work through some problems on here, a short delta math, and then you'll have a quiz this week on quadratic formula, a word problem, probably a rectangle word problem, and a question on anything to do with the nature of the roots of a discriminant.